Mind's Eye Audio presents Small Complications. Chapter 12. Shelley, he said. Bobby, she said. They tried to speak at the same time, which made them both laugh. Then Bobby said, "Go ahead, what were you going to say?" "Bobby, you know that I care about you very much, and I don't mean any disrespect at all when I say that you're a very handsome man," Shelley said, with eyes twinkling. And possibly it seemed that she had actually become more beautiful during the course of their meal. Her eyes lowered as she leaned in toward him. "A very sexy man," she continued, and put her mouth on his. Bobby jerked away and looked at her with stunned amazement. She had completely caught him off guard. He did not expect this from her. Shelley snapped back into her seat and blushed. She was clearly embarrassed and struggled to find words to say. They sat at their table, both speechless, looking at each other. That awkward feeling had once again returned. Roderick was obviously into fitness, as was evidenced by his muscular body. Brenda almost had to wipe drool from the corner of her mouth as she watched him undress. She could see that he cared about his body, and right now she just wanted to care about it too. Felicia slipped out of her bathrobe and climbed into the bed with Roderick and Brenda. The three of them moved about slowly, quickly, tenderly and vigorously in Felicia's satin-sheeted king-sized bed. Hands touched hands, and limbs rubbed against limbs, while tongues licked tender spots and lips kissed erotically. Pretty soon, they were lost in a sea of touching, rubbing, licking, and kissing. Moaning and breathing filled the air and added to the sexual tension of the already electrified atmosphere. "Oh my God," Brenda shrieked, unable to control herself. She was being masterfully taken to new heights, and then even newer ones. "Shelley, I'm sorry," Bobby said sadly. "I'm the one who should be sorry. I had no right," Shelley said. "No, Shelley, you haven't done anything wrong. I must be crazy for not sweeping everything off this table and making mad love to you right here in this restaurant. I don't think there's a more beautiful woman in the world right now," he said sincerely. She eyed him curiously, and he answered the question that her eyes seemed to ask. "Then why aren't you?" "There's someone else in my life, Shelley," he told her. He half expected to see a hurt look on her face, but instead, he only saw relief. "I wasn't even looking, it just sort of happened, without my permission, so to speak," he said. Shelley was relieved. She had felt a bout of low self-esteem and self-consciousness coming on. She could hear her poor little ego preparing to ask, "What's wrong with me?" But now everything made perfect sense. No wonder he resisted her. Bobby was a man of honor, and if he was going to cheat on his unfaithful wife, he would at least respect the person that he was seeing. She felt so much better that the fact that someone else had landed him first no longer mattered to her. Her ego was intact. Amen. Bobby briefly described how he had innocently met someone, and before they knew what was happening, they had fallen for each other. "Shelley, it's so good, but it's very uncomfortable for me. I brought you here tonight to tell you about it because you're my best friend. I'm very sorry if I gave off mixed signals," Bobby said to her. "It's okay, Bobby. I shouldn't have assumed. I'm here for you. If this is what makes you happy, then I'm happy for you. I support you 100%, said Shelley. They talked for 15 more minutes, and then he paid for their dinner and helped Shelley with her wrap. They were both in good spirits as they walked out into the night air. The night seemed to possess a newness, Bobby thought, and in more ways than one he was right. His old life had come to an end in ways he was yet to realize. Brenda was completely exhausted. She felt like every inch of her body had experienced its own private orgasm. She had been to the mountaintop and she never wanted to come back down. How could she ever return to her normal life again? She had only a moment to ponder the thought when she suddenly heard the front door open and Roderick tell Felicia good night. Brenda leapt up from the bed and ran to catch him before he left. "Wait," she yelled. "Roderick, can I get your number?" She looked at Fifi to see if she approved of this question, knowing all along that at that moment she did not care what Felicia felt. Roderick too looked at Felicia, who smiled approvingly at both of them. "Definitely," he said. "Do you have anything to write it on?" Brenda grabbed her purse and reached into a zippered pocket on the side where she kept her business cards, handed him her last one and a ballpoint pen. "Here you go," she beamed. Roderick scribbled his number and name on the blank side of her card and handed it back to her. She grabbed him, pulled him in close, and kissed his mouth. "Thank you for an unbelievable night," she told him. Then she turned and walked back toward the bedroom. Roderick and Felicia both watched her, and Fifi noticed a little extra sway in her hips as she strode nakedly back into the next room. "She really likes you," Felicia told Roderick. "Yeah, I like her too. She's a nice kid," he said back to her, kissed her on the lips, and headed out the door. Brenda was fully dressed by the time Felicia returned to the bedroom. "Gotta get back home, huh?" Fifi asked. "Yep, you know the rules," Brent answered. "But tonight was something else, Fifi. Totally more than I bargained for. Thank you so much, baby," she added. "Are you pleased? That's all I want to know," Felicia asked. "I am very pleased," Brenda answered. The two women chatted for a few more minutes and then said their goodbyes, promising to talk more tomorrow. Then Brenda got into her car and headed for home. Stay tuned for the conclusion.